you for joining us.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks for having me.
yes. So would you mind introducing yourself, sharing a little bit about your background and, what you were doing before and how you decided to pursue your PhD?
So my name is Matthias. I grew up on Central Coast, California. For the past few years, I've been working in admissions at a university, my alma mater, my undergraduate alma mater, called the University of the Pacific. Working in the admissions office has been wonderful because I travel around to many schools and I assist those students in making undergraduate college, I guess you could say accessible. I'd say in the mind, because that's kind of like what we're trying to break is to let the students know that there's opportunities for their future there. My professors and faculty at this university knew that my goal was to eventually go and obtain a PhD. Everyone at my university knew this was something I wanted to do, was eventually go into teaching, specifically become a professor in political science. So I've been in my job for some few years, but I decided that it's time to go back and obtain my PhD, mostly because my background's in political science. I have a lot of interest there, and I realized that ultimately if you have the ability to teach students, there's this large responsibility for these professors to not only, especially in political science, to not only give students useful information to apply to jobs and industries, but I think for me, more importantly, you're providing these students with examples of how they should use rhetoric, giving them examples of maybe the people that they ought to be like or strive to be like, and really probably provide students with an ideal of what does the best life look like or a meaningful life look like. So my background's in political theory, political science. I finally found like it's time to pursue this. But I
Okay.
knew that to like do this right, I would need some help. Like to be honest, I just knew that I was gonna have a lot of support, and I don't think additional support hurts at all. Science is a collaborative process. So part of this is when you're aiming towards making the best product possible, if it's a research paper or getting yourself ready for a job interview, to get more critique, it never hurts.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Um, There's an interesting background. Not many people have worked in admissions, and so, you have like that unique perspective to bring to this, but also your point is like, I'm kind of moving in a PhD direction as opposed to an undergrad direction, and so getting different ideas on that. So what was like your main problem before you joined us in Fearless Grad?
If it's personal statement or a statement of intent, it's just good to get other people to get some eyes on this. And while your professors in your past might be willing to do this, it's always just good to get a neat perspective outside of your immediate network. Thinking of that, I might have some errors somewhere in my application kind of informed me that yes, I should seek help. And if I would totally thought like I didn't need that help, I probably wouldn't have used a resource like this. But I had to be very honest to myself and say, I'm not going to cheat myself from any opportunities. And I would cheat myself by, I would say, being a little too prideful, is saying that I don't need help. Students, they appreciate any type of help. Most of them do, because they might have a lot of concerns. They might want to go to Yale or Harvard. Getting me in there and give them peace of mind is useful, just for like I'm nervous about this process. I need someone that understands this process to alleviate my own stress. So even in the event that I'm not admitted to certain places, at least I know to myself that I did everything I could. It was like taking in and becoming what I was kind of selling to younger students. I should also do this as well.
Oh, wow. Full circle moment. Could you describe maybe the moment when you started realizing Fearless Grad was working for you?
It's all a process, but the most important part that told me that this was worth the investment was the first conversation with you, Natalie. I was certain I was going in a certain direction with my life. Like I'm like, okay, I know what I want to do. But talking through to you about like my goals and my dreams and even my doubts, like you allowed me that space to speak my mind. And I had hardly started the process. I think I did the first draft of like, what is your purpose?
Hmm.
And then after talking to you, I was like, I know that there's some places that were off my list because I kind of told myself, there's no way, buddy, kind of thing. Now these places are more realistic because you kind of believed in me. You're like, hey, you sound like you're a good fit for this program. It sounds like you're doing this for a reason. You owe this to yourself to shoot for the stars. And I just kind of needed that additional like support. So then when I went back to do that, what is your purpose paper? I was just more reinvigorated. Um, I was fresh, I was ready to go at that point, just from a kind of a pick me up, right? So I go back and I think I went through the first module pretty fast. because I was just excited. I was running on this newfound second or probably third wave of energy. So I think, yeah, like just hearing it from someone who's been there at done that and is offering the support. And it's part of like what I think about constantly, even like within my own research interests. Why is it that there's some people that could provide you with evidence or, support, and in our mind, we're able to validate that and be like, there's something true there. There's some
Mhm.
wisdom there. And sometimes we hear other people speaking, and we're like, yeah, I don't need that advice. There's probably something more beautiful about like just finding, truth everywhere. But at least the conversation with you, I found it to be true and useful. And then I applied it. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm glad. And you're right. And that, oh, it's, you gave a really good description. And then the last couple like words is really critical. It's like, then I applied it because I think a lot of folks can get caught in like the consumption of information and like not applying things and moving forward. And so I think it's both, right? You need the support, the information, but you do have to put pen to
Do the
paper.
work.
Yeah, yeah. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. Okay. What was like the most surprising thing you either learned about yourself or the PhD application process, like through all this?
Yeah. The whole journey, I was constantly thinking about fit. That's something I talk about in my role. Again, it's just hard to apply it when you're not going through it. So during this, I'm in an application cycle. Natalie focuses largely on fit and even like goes to the point to make us do research on making sure we're not overlooking things, and also we're not just going to a program just because it looks cool. Like, sure, if it has an appeal, that's fine, but it makes no sense to look at a place if it doesn't fit. And what does that mean? Like, are these people doing the work you're interested in, right? And that's something you talk about. I love that. That was very helpful because I added schools to it. I added programs to it. I dropped programs because of it. And I was confident in those choices because I was
Mhm.
putting in the legwork to find people that were doing work that I'd be excited to do with.
Mhm.
And then from there, the whole process, reaching out to these professors, drafting emails, which requires research on maybe some other things these folks are doing because none of them are the same. And that's a beautiful thing, right? That everyone's doing unique research to a degree. So finding that for the focus on fit is probably the most important thing that I begin to just focus in on. And then even like I said, in my role, provide it to other people like this is a real thing. And
Mhm.
once you find like a place that does feel like the best fit, just on
Mhm.
theory, just on the material you're reading, it's amazing how it kind of just feeds back into like your process, right? You're like, wow, this university or program, I discovered it through this program through Fearless Grad, but it's amazing just on because of the work that's being done there, how much I want to be there. Like to me, that's so interesting, and I'm sure there's
Mhm.
other students that will undergo this experience. So like yeah, don't write off any university or place. Do the research. Like the Chat GPT, I think was how you use that as a tool. That was so cool. That's where I found out so much information because I'm typically reluctant to use that software, but it is a good tool. And
Yeah.
I discovered that through this program.
The fun thing is I do a fair amount of legwork for you guys, like test out different tools and like see kind of how to use them effectively and like everything evolves. So whatever I teach today is going to change in 6 months, but the process, the methodology is pretty much the same, right? Like, and to your point, finding the good fit, you found the good fit, you felt excited, you felt easier to like market yourself to them. It just makes things easier.
Discovering a part of yourself is like really how I put it. It's like the process feels like a lot of self-discovery,
Yeah.
and while we may be clear on what we think
Yeah.
we're going to become and what we know we want to become, it becomes more fascinating to be like, whoa, like all of this work I've done in the past, there's a reason why I was succeeding with this work because I legitimately enjoyed it. I discovered a couple programs that I didn't know were probably even a better fit. These might be places that you could legitimately work at,
It's a
you know?
small world
Yeah.
and like you just don't know what the future holds. So building these networks is never a bad thing. Seeing the long game, we can help that be easier for you guys. We're focused on getting you in. I think I try to lay the foundation for then the next steps to be, more successful for you guys.
Mackenzie had mentioned like her habit of writing letters, handwritten letters. For Mike, you could probably any of us probably ever received the card. And these folks, especially in political science, probably they call them people in the humanities, like, people of letters, it matters. Like, it's like, rather than a gift or rather than a gift card, just a letter, like,
Mhm.
just say thank you. It means everything. So I think it's useful. You're right, though. Like in the future with job interviews, to continue this habit, keep on reaching out to people that are there, working there, reach out to the younger staff, treat everybody in that build, the admins at these places, be super nice to them. And you should be anyways, right? Because
Right,
you emphasize being a good person, right? And
right.
that's also part of probably a good fit for your program. When I visited a couple of places like on preview days, um, the one place that was really high on my list, I was jazzed to be there. So I wanted as much information from everybody without realizing some of these people are admin in these administrations or
Right,
my
right.
department,
Yeah.
But like that's super useful. Yeah.
Yeah, things work in mysterious ways. Always a good idea to be, to your point, a good person to everybody. Um, what was like your favorite part of Fearless Grad, or what do you think was the most helpful to you?
What I looked into the most and used the most was the Slack group. The
Oh
Slack
yeah.
group's amazing. Like, because you see other people, other real people that are in this program that are have similar fears and anxieties. Some of them sometimes asking questions that you would want to ask, but like for myself, sometimes a little embarrassed. So you get to see someone ask the same thing, like, "Hey, like, how long is this gonna take?" Right? It's a good question.
Yeah.
And instead of me asking it, someone else does. And typically, a lot of the same question or the questions I had, they were just put in there. So I'd go through it once a day. I also kind of felt like it kept me accountable to myself if I was working on the applications to, okay, let's get back to work. And it makes things exciting. Some of your peers are going to be getting in places or just had a great conversation through like a coffee chat with the professor.
Mhm.
And it then you might, if you're really getting after it, it might tell you, maybe I should reach out to a couple more professors. Maybe I should also strive for that kind of coffee chat. So it's like kind of keeps that accountability. It keeps you plugged in any second of of every single day. That was for me at least the most helpful.
I love it. I love
Yeah,
it too because like you guys are all busy, so it's highly unlikely you're gonna like have an hour a day to like have a chat or whatever. But to your point, like you could quickly log in and get what you needed, like keep moving forward, draw some energy from that, and like hopefully save yourself a lot of time. You know, I do hear from different folks, they're like, oh, I went down Reddit or da da da. I was like, and I get that curiosity, but at the same time, I think a lot of folks they just like ping Slack and then we can get through it a lot faster as well. So,
yeah. I think it just helps cope with a real thing, which is worry. Just
yeah,
we're all going through it, and even
yeah,
if one doesn't things don't feel right. Yeah, I think your group was so like pleasant, such a like good people, that
yeah,
make you feel good. So I
yeah.
think it's probably the best way to frame it
I love our
you're right.
people. So tell me about, yes, so where are you now? Like, what does your life look like now? Have you gotten acceptances? What's going
Yeah.
on?
So I was admitted to my number one program, which was Illinois Urbana-Champaign. They're very strong in political behavior. I knew this going into it. I just kind of took them off my list because I thought I was just going to do something else. I
Mhm,
realized that at this program, I could do everything I want to do.
mhm.
So I got a great offer on being nominated for a fellowship that coincides with this preview day I had at the university. So
Amazing.
if anyone ever wants to talk about that, if they're looking at this school or in the mid or
Okay.
looking at schools in the Midwest, I could talk about. I'm feeling good about that program. I really enjoyed his energy. We were an intellectual fit, but then we kind of like the same research. I mean, especially because he does it. I'm more of a fan. Um, but I just kind of thought like I'm in California, that's Illinois. Like, it's so probably difficult to get in. Not even gonna think about it. So I originally restricted myself to like three schools. I was gonna apply to three schools in California. After
Ah,
being in this program, expanded to nine. So Illinois, had an interview with Wisconsin-Madison, which is a tremendously strong program
yeah.
for political science. Generally speaking, like if you're just like I'm gonna apply to a place that's ranked, kind of thing, probably a place. The other seven, I have not heard anything about. I got like invited to an event at Notre Dame, which I think is kind of cool. As far as other like traction, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I mean, we're still fairly early in the feedback phase. So yeah, there's gonna be a lot of new stuff coming out. But that's amazing. So how did it feel to like to have that offer from your top school?
I don't want to say I couldn't believe it. It just feels so good. Like there's just like sweet relief. Like I would say I've never been like that proud of myself in any event in my life. I think that's the best way to put it because
Oh wow.
we worked a lot at this. I had a lot of people that helped me. Like, it's not just myself, it's my family. I was in so many prep things. This program was super helpful because that opened the door to saying, okay, I'm going to do even more to make sure that I'm helping myself. So, for the American Political Science Association, I have a wonderful mentor, Gabe, wonderful person, who just kind of understood the process and kind of like, hey, like, this is where I messed up. I'm going to help you here. I was in a prep at Illinois. I was at a prep at Harvard. So like, but none of that would have been possible. Like if I would have, or from day the first talk with you, been just honest to myself and said I need to do some self reflection first before I take on this marathon journey. I still can't believe it, to be honest. Like
It
that's
is,
how I feel. It
it's
was a
a trip,
journey.
it's a trippy thing. I remember, well, mine was a little different. I was at the end, right? So I had all my offers or whatever. And when I finally, it was even hard to admit to myself my top choice because it meant some discomfort for like my partner. But once I finally made that decision of this is where I'm going and we're gonna make it work, I remember like, yeah, that like wave of relief and like also pride. It's cool. It is a lot. But okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing. What would you recommend the Fearless Grad program to others? And if so, why?
The focus on fit is is what I'm going to be thinking of though. Like anytime we're thinking about admissions to any program, and knowing your program, I think that's something you kind of want to meet the people coming in beforehand. So it's I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. I would have to like kind of get to know them to say like,
Mm,
hey, this is the right fit for you
mm,
because I think with any product, you you want to be sure like this person's committed to it. And if the product, let's say, doesn't work, and you ask this person like maybe you see that they spent 1 hour a day on the program. I don't know like what you think is enough, but I know for like myself, through this application, it's like I was spending like 4 or 5 hours a day, like
a
is what
lot.
it felt like because I was not gonna, I ended up having 9 applications, three times what I projected. And I was just into it, and you could always do the research on anything never ends.
That's,
So you get what you put into it.
that's fair.
I want people to succeed through it because I got everything I wanted out of it, and I want someone else to have the same experience. I think the people that are in the Fearless Crowd organization, the ones who are making this happen, making the magic happen, they try their best. So I need people to buy into that because
Oh, you
without
you you almost sound protective. You almost
I am because it's like a product like any product that you find value in. Like you don't
right.
want it to lose value because who's to say that this program it should exist for the years to come. There's always collateral damage that could occur, but
I see what you're
it's
saying.
yeah, no, it is protective because I don't want someone to tell me like, oh yeah, that didn't help me. It's like, well, I don't see how it couldn't. And that's why
Okay.
you'd want to really vet the people beforehand,
Okay. So
especially because yeah.
if a person were similar to you or the other people doing the work, do you think it would be helpful for most folks that are like really ready to do this versus, yeah, somebody who's like, I don't know if I want my PhD yet. This is not for you. But assuming you're on board, do you think it makes sense for people to use?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like you owe it to yourself if you're that serious, or it's more worth the investment. I don't think you're going to get that in other places. It's touching on so many different things I've mentioned, like kind of anxiety and worry. Like you're going to have that support, probably alleviate that. You're going to have actual people to give you critical advice on how you write, right, and tear it up. I like that. So, sometimes you have to pay people to do that.
Yeah.
If you're not paying, sometimes they're not really going to give you that advice. So I think
Yeah.
it's yeah, up to anybody with the amount of work you all put in, kind of probably not enough compared to like the kind of price we're getting. I've seen other types of consultants for undergraduate admissions. I know what they're charging. So it's the heck of a deal for your future. And right, it's like people invest in 4-year institutions, master's degrees. I'd say for those folks that are really excited to take on a PhD, they're thinking maybe they need that master's kind of thing. Maybe give this cycle a shot, but spend some money on a program like Fearless Grad.
So do you not have your master's?
Part of it is like I kind of knew what I wanted to do. I don't want, and that's not to like say anything about anyone else. We're
Right.
all at different places, but
Right.
I was like pretty clear about the type of research I wanted to do,
Yeah, yeah.
my
Well,
goals
that's
and whatnot. And that's the kind of the how it kind of feeds back into it. So if there's a young person or an undergrad that's thinking about getting a PhD, There's might be some mental barriers in the way. That's what someone like yourself, it makes someone in that boat without the master's competitive.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe like 60% of our people probably have masters, but yeah, a good chunk do not. And to your point, you were very successful with your background, and learning everything and applying it. So it works well. Like, yeah, it's not required. And that it's tricky because in like Europe, they're more strict. They're like, you must have it, da da da. And so like at least there's like a black and white. Here it's more like, nah. So we kind of work through that, like, how do you market yourself with your experiences?
Believe in yourself. I like to say drink your own Kool-Aid is what I like to say
Mhm.
because like it is your life, and no one's asking you to be in the program or to apply to PhDs, but it all funnels into probably how you're living your life, how you think about your life, how you
Mm,
see your life. We all owe it to ourselves to really make our lives meaningful and purposeful. If you have the idea to pursue a PhD, that is a beautiful thing, but really like believe in yourself and jump in. If you're joining Fearless Grad, you're kind of proving to yourself. That's like the first step in proving to yourself, like, you're telling yourself, I'm investing in myself.
mm,
There has to be some kind of belief because if you didn't believe in yourself, you wouldn't even try. So believe in
right.
yourself, drink the Kool-Aid, take the first step, and you're going to have a whole lot of people to support you, to just keep on finishing this marathon. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations again, Matthias. I appreciate you speaking with us.
You're very welcome. Yeah, I appreciate it as well. This was a good opportunity.
Thank you.